Brain of Britain, the nationwide general knowledge contest, chaired by Russell Davis.
Hello and a warm welcome as we kick off a new season of Brain of Britain. With our recordings getting underway somewhat before pandemic restrictions are lifted, we're still without an audience here in the BBC's splendid Art Deco Radio Theatre. And we probably will be for our northern contests in Salford too, I'm afraid. But I can't tell you how much we're looking forward to welcoming audiences back at a later stage in the series. Our contestants this year are drawn, as always, from all walks of life and all parts of the UK. And the common thread is that they're all prepared to put the knowledge in their heads to the test without recourse to Google or Alexa or any other artificial aids. The winners of our 12 heats will go forward to semi-finals and perhaps even as far as the final in the autumn. And there could be a chance even for those who narrowly lose, because there are places reserved in the semi-finals for the 4 top-scoring runners-up as well. Let me invite our first 4 contenders of 2021 to introduce themselves to you.
Hello, I'm Claire Barrow. I'm a trust and estate practitioner from Devon.
Hello, I'm LILLIAN CRAWFORD. I'm a freelance writer from Bearsted in Kent.
Hello, I'm David GREGSON. I'm a civil servant from London.
Hello, I'm KILBRIDE. I'm a retired maths teacher who's lived in Cornwall for over 30 years.
Can't tell. Yes, Claire, I understand you once went to Tenerife and had a less than relaxing time, I understand.
Yes, if you go to Tenerife, you have to ride up Mount Teide.
All right. What do you ride up on?
A bicycle.
Didn't you enjoy it?
I loved it.
Ah.
I didn't like the way down very much, but the ride up was 28 kilometres of 6%, and then the downward was very, very cold and very scary.
Is it, are there cliffs and tricky bits?
Unguarded cliffs with bends.
Oh, dear. I'm glad to see you here. Well done. Lillian, tell us about the time you had an interesting conversation, so I understand, with the actor Crispin Glover.
Yes, I was once approached by Crispin Glover, and he started talking to me in Nadsat, the fictional language from A Clockwork Orange. I had no idea what he was talking about.
Goodness me, that's asking a lot, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. What does it sound like? Is it guttural?
No, not really. I had to ask him what he was saying.
Do you remember what it was?
No, I can't remember. I don't speak Nadsat.
No. I expect, yes, Burgess must have had fun thinking that up. He was always one for languages. David, now this is unusual because when you're not quizzing, you can be found on a football pitch. That I understand, but it's an American football pitch, so I understand.
Yeah, I used to dabble a bit.
Do you need all that gear? I suppose you have to have it, don't you? Otherwise,
you do need
horribly injured.
Yeah, exactly.
What does it weigh? I mean, it looks as...
It's quite light, actually. It's made of plastic, so it's quite light.
Yeah.
But you still feel a bit weighed down by the face mask more than anything else. That's metal.
Don't you get frustrated by the amount of waiting about there? I mean, the amount of action in an American football game is very short.
At the amateur level, it's all hands on deck. So.
And what were you? Were you one of the sprinting kind? Or
no, I was one of the guys protecting the quarterback.
Yeah, so mainly short distance violence.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Chris, it's always interesting to learn how people get into this quizzing lark, and it seems you may have developed a taste for it at an early age because one of your school teachers, I'm told, was a Brain of Britain champion. Is that true?
Yeah, when I started secondary school, my history teacher had won it a few years beforehand, 3 or 4 years before. He was someone who was very respected in school, and I thought, well, one day I'd like to do the same. So this is me trying. He's a very well-known man at the time. I mean, he also commentated on the television as well as...
what was his name? Because he must be
Bob Crampsey. He was my history teacher.
Well, wonderful. It's obviously worked because here you are.
Yep.
And the best of luck to all 4 of you. It's a few months since we were last on air, but there aren't many rules to remind you of. Your questions come in turn, in alphabetical order of surname, and I keep asking you questions until you get one wrong or can't answer, in which case I'll open it up to the others for a bonus point and then move on. But if you get 5 correct answers in a row, that's also the end of your turn, and you're awarded a bonus 6th point for that achievement. You have 10 seconds to think about each answer, should you need them, and the moment you hear this, your time has run out, and I can't accept your answer, I'm afraid. Good luck, all of you. Let's start the first contest of the 2021 Brain of Britain season with you, Claire Barrow. Which location, considered by the ancient Greeks to be the centre of the world, was the site of the Temple of Apollo, whose high priestess, the Pythia, acted as the voice of the all-knowing oracle?
Delphi.
Yes. In February 2021, Winchester College overturned centuries of tradition by doing what for the first time?
Admitting girls.
Yes, female pupils. The changes include admission of girls and day pupils into the sixth form from 2022 and girl boarders from 2024. The Rashtrapati Bhavan, the official home of the President of India in New Delhi, was designed by which architect?
Le Corbusier.
No. Chris Kilbride.
Lutyens?
It was Sir Edwin Lutyens, yes, originally called the Viceroy's Palace. And because of a sloping approach from the east, from a distance, the lower part of this magnificent building is hidden, a result that Lutyens himself had feared. We pass on to Lillian Crawford now. Catfish Row, a tenement neighbourhood in Charleston, South Carolina, is the setting of which 20th century English language opera?
Porgy and Bess?
Porgy and Bess is right. What is the title of the semi-autobiographical novel published in 1963 by an American-born writer under the pseudonym Victoria Lucas?
The Bell Jar by Sylvia
Yes,
Plath.
that's right. Victoria Lucas was indeed Sylvia Plath. The Pomerine, the Great, the Long-tailed and the Arctic are the 4 UK species of which bird described by the RSPB as an aggressive pirate of the seas?
The Tern?
No. Chris Kilbride.
Skewer?
It is the Pomerine skewer. The Arctic skewer is the right answer. David Gregson, if a person is described as ventricose, they have a rather large what?
Heart.
No. Chris Kilbride.
Belly?
Belly, abdomen, stomach, midriff, whatever you care to call it, yes. And it is your question, Chris Kilbride. Whose 1935 thought experiment involving a cat in a box illustrates a key feature of quantum theory?
Schrödinger?
Erwin Schrödinger, yes. The astronomical phenomena known scientifically as parhelia and paraseleni are also known by informal English names, which refer to them as which kind of animal?
Nope.
No. Time out. Claire Barrow?
Would that be nocturnal and diurnal?
No. Any thoughts? No. Oh, well, the animal is, it's dogs, because they are sun dogs and moon dogs, respectively. So, end of round 1, after which David Gregson has yet to score, but Lillian Crawford and Claire Barrow have 2 apiece. Chris Kilbride, 4. And now, Claire Barrow, we start with you again. Which 1993 film is partly concerned with activities around Gobbler's Knob?
Lord of the Rings?
No. David Gregson knows.
Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day, yes. It's the name of the place where crowds gather to see whether or not Punxsutawney Phil, the groundhog, has predicted an early spring. Lillian Crawford's turn. Which winner of the Nobel Prize for Literature published a translation of the Anglo-Saxon epic poem Beowulf in 1999?
Seamus Heaney.
Seamus Heaney did that, yes. During World War II, an area of which English county was known as Hell's Corner?
Devon?
No. David Gregson?
Kent.
Yes, Kent, East Kent, especially around Dover. David Gregson, we turn to you. The man who commanded the defending Texan forces alongside Colonel James Bowie at the Battle of the Alamo in 1836 had a surname which is also the name of a Scottish rock band. What name is that?
Travis.
Travis is right. Lieutenant Colonel William Barrett Travis. In the 1966 World Cup final, who was England's youngest player?
Alan Ball.
It was. He was 21. The test known as the Holmes and Rahe inventory devised in 1967 by two psychiatrists with those names, consists of a list of 43 life events, such as divorce, marriage, and retirement. What is this inventory used to assess?
Stress.
Stress, levels of stress, how stress affects health, and so on. Which Booker Prize-winning novelist collaborated with the artist Johnny Christmas to produce a series of graphic novels featuring a part bird, part cat superhero called Angel Catbird?
Pass.
Right. Lillian Crawford knows that.
Hilary Mantel?
No. Chris Kilbride?
Ishiguro?
No. Any more offers? No. It was Margaret Atwood.
Oh,
Yep.
I'm blank.
Chris Kilbride's question. Which Cornish chemist is credited with discovering sodium?
Humphrey Davy.
Humphrey Davy is right, yes. The four long constituent poems of T.S. Eliot's four quartets each bear a title which is a place name. Three of them, Burnt Norton, East Coker, and Little Gidding, refer to places in the British Isles, but the other doesn't. What is that title?
St Louis?
No. The fourth poem, nobody remembers? It's called The Dry Salvages, pronounced as Eliot tells us, to rhyme with assuages. It's a group of rocks off the coast of Massachusetts. And that's the end of the second round. Scores now Claire Barrow 2, Lillian Crawford 3, David Gregson and Chris Kilbride 5 apiece. Now, Claire Barrow, your next question begins with a musical extract, and you're about to hear a piece of electronic music from the 1970s that became a hit after a gifted radio broadcaster and entertainer used it as the theme for his first ever television series. I'd like you to name that broadcaster.
Bob Monkhouse?
No. David Gregson?
David Frost.
No. No. It was Kenny Everett. The Kenny Everett video show aired for the first time in July 1978, featuring routines by the risque for the time dance troupe Hot Gossip, music by Serone, Marc Serone, from Vitry-sur-Seine in France. Now, Lillian Crawford's question. The Victor Hugo play Le Roi s'amuse, or The King Enjoys Himself, is the basis of which opera by Verdi?
Nabucco?
No. David Gregson?
Rigoletto.
Rigoletto is right. Good. And it's your question. Exploring topics such as race, fatherhood, and the future of America, the 2021 podcast series Renegades is hosted by former President Barack Obama and which US musician?
Bob Dylan.
No. Chris Kilbride?
Springsteen?
Bruce Springsteen is the right answer, yes. Chris Kilbride's question. NFT is the abbreviation for a relatively new method for buying and selling digital commodities. What do the letters NFT stand for?
No idea.
Claire Barrow.
Non-fungible tokens.
That's quite right. Non-fungible token, and I won't ask you to explain what the heck they are. Well done. End of another round. Very neat scoreline here. Claire Barrow 3, Lillian Crawford 3, David Gregson 6, Chris Kilbride 6. So, after all that, let's allow our brains to sit back and have a bit of a breather at this point. What happens in the next few minutes is just for fun, doesn't affect the scores at all, and it involves all four of our contenders pooling their knowledge to see if they can deal with two cleverly devised questions from a Brain of Britain listener. We call this Beat the Brains, and you can email us your suggestions for questions to ask in a future edition by using the email address brainofbritain@bbc.co.uk. The questions we've chosen today from the many hundreds of ideas we've received since last year are the work of Mr. Dudley Hillsden, who lives in Sybil, Headingham in Essex. If Mr. Hillsden outfoxes our brains with his questions, he'll be the recipient of a book voucher prize with which he can buy something to furnish his mind even further. Are you ready for Mr. Hillsden's little quiz? Well, here goes then. He asks first. What claim to fame is afforded to Cardinal Giuseppe Caspar Mezzofanti, 1774 to 1849, at various times a professor at the University of Bologna and custodian-in-chief of the Vatican Library?
I wouldn't know where to start.
No,
Never
me
done
either. Something to do with the Sistine Chapel.
No, it was a bit later, wasn't it?
Oh, was it?
1700s.
Okay.
Did he translate something important, maybe?
That's getting a little bit closer. Although he didn't, but it's closer.
Stumps completely.
Not going to come. No.
Did he categorise the library?
I expect he could have done, because it's widely believed he was the world's greatest hyper-polyglot. Or in other words, he spoke more languages than anyone else ever recorded. His 19th century biographer, Charles William Russell, listed at least 30 languages which he spoke with rare excellence, and dozens of others in which he had at least some basic knowledge. Pity he's not still around to do the Eurovision Song Contest. Now, Dudley Hillsden's second question has a thematic link with the first. What claim to fame is afforded to Alessandro Moreschi, 1858 to 1922, a lay member of the Sistine Chapel Choir?
That's about the time that Castrati finished.
Oh, so could they be the last castrato?
castrato.
Yeah,
That's
that sounds good.
the time. Was he the last castrato?
He was. Well done. He's believed to be the last of the castrato singers. If so, he is the only castrato whose solo voice was ever recorded electronically in the early years of the 20th century by the Gramophone and Typewriter Company of London. The recordings have been made available on CD in recent years, and to a modern ear, they are rather dreadful, I have to say. In 1903, a new papal decree stated that the castrati should be replaced by soprani and boys, and the centuries-old tradition came to an end. So, well done, Dudley Hillsden. The brains didn't deal adequately with one of your questions, so that means you will be getting your prize very soon. And by time-honoured tradition, winners of Beat the Brains also receive a round of applause, and we think you deserve better than the rather feeble noise we'll be able to muster between us here on an empty stage. So here's a vintage one, a vintage round of applause from the Brain of Britain archives. Well done. It takes you back, doesn't it? I should say now at the beginning of the series that I'm very sorry we don't have room to fit in all of the ideas we receive. We know how much effort goes into thinking them up, and we do love looking at them and picking our selection of the most interesting ones. I should also say that we do a bit of fact-checking before we use them too, which does sometimes uncover anomalies and misconceptions, probably promulgated by that notorious mire of disinformation that is the internet. I mentioned our email address, but if you prefer to send them on paper, you can always do that instead. Just address them to Brain of Britain, BBC Dock House, Media City, UK, Salford, M50 2LH. We'll always do our best to alert you in advance if we pick your questions for inclusion in the programme. So please try to give us up-to-date contact details. That's quite enough relaxation then. Fingers back on buttons, and we take up where we left off with your next question, Claire Barrow. On the 16th of May 1975, Junko Tabei became the first woman ever to achieve what?
She climbed Everest.
She did. She climbed to the summit of Everest. She also became the first woman to complete the 7 Summits Challenge, scaling the highest peak on every continent on Earth. She herself was from Japan. In the Charles Dickens novel, The Old Curiosity Shop, what is the surname of Little Nell? Out of time, I'm afraid. Lillian Crawford?
Quilp?
No, afraid not. Chris Kilbride?
Flanders?
No. David Gregson's having a go.
Smith?
No, not Smith. It's the best one, isn't it? Statistically. Trent. She was Nell Trent, yes. Lillian Crawford, time for a sound-related question for you now. It's about 100 years since the death of the composer of this opera, which I'd like you to name.
Pearl Fishers?
No. Famous duet from that, but that wasn't it. David Gregson?
Is it Mendelssohn?
No. Nobody knows. Hansel and Gretel, it's by Engelbert Humperdinck, no relation. We heard part of the evening prayer from Act 2. Hansel and Gretel was sung by Brigitte Fassbender and Lucia Popp, with the Vienna Philharmonic conducted by Sir Georg Scholti. David Gregson, at the time when he was a government minister and a chief architect of what was known as New Labour, Peter Mandelson represented which parliamentary constituency?
Hartlepool?
Yes, which changed hands to the Conservatives in a by-election in 2021 after being a safe Labour seat for decades. In a celebrated scene in which 20th century film do characters named Vincent Vega and Mia Wallace dance to Chuck Berry's You Never Can Tell in a restaurant called Jack Rabbit Slim's?
Pulp Fiction?
Yes, directed by Quentin Tarantino, starring John Travolta and Uma Thurman in that memorable scene. Which American folk singer and activist who lived in Britain for several decades was married to the playwright and singer Ewan MacColl for the last dozen years of his life?
Kate McGarrigle?
No. Chris Kilbride?
Was it Seeger, Peggy Seeger?
Peggy Seeger it was. She was MacColl's third wife. Yes, you're right. Chris Kilbride, your question. To which family of birds does the wryneck belong?
It's a woodpecker.
It is a woodpecker. Well done. Although he's much better known as a novelist and poet, Thomas Hardy also wrote a verse drama published in 3 parts in the early years of the 20th century, which he described as the longest English drama in existence. What was it called?
I haven't the faintest idea.
Right. Anybody remember? Nobody's read it. I don't think he would have been surprised. It's called The Dynasts, and it's all about the Napoleonic times. End of another round. Lillian Crawford 3, Claire Barrow 4, David Gregson and Chris Kilbride 8 apiece. Right, back to Claire Barrow. The Canaanæan and the Zealot are sobriquets often applied to which of Christ's apostles?
Simon.
Simon, yes. The titles are used to distinguish Simon from Simon Peter. Which major European city is served by an airport located at El Prat de Llobregat?
Lisbon.
No. Chris Kilbride.
It's Barcelona.
It's Barcelona, yes. Known for short as El Prat, and I'm not surprised. Lillian Crawford, the Olivier Awards are the major awards that recognise achievement on the stage in the UK and are considered to be the equivalent of the Tony Awards in the USA. What name, after a great French dramatist, is given to the equivalent awards in France?
Molière?
The Molière Awards, is right. The chemical element with atomic number 75, a transition metal, is named after which major European river?
The Rhine?
Yes, it's rhenium. Which African primate closely related to the baboon is often called the world's most colourful mammal due to its scarlet nose and blue, red and purple buttocks?
The mandrill?
Mandrill is right. Which of the Beat poets supposedly inspired the character Carlo Marx in Jack Kerouac's novel On the Road?
Allen Ginsberg.
Yes. Which 19th century composer who became a celebrity in Europe is said to have received so many requests from fans for a lock of his hair that he bought a dog and sent clippings from that instead?
Franz Liszt.
Yes. The ecstasies he drove his fans into was known as Listomania, the title of a not well-received Ken Russell film about him. And that is 5 right answers in a row and a bonus mark to you. Very well done. Glad somebody's done that. It sets a precedent for the series. David Gregson, music. You're going to hear the opening of Bobby Gentry's enigmatic 1967 country hit Ode to Billy Joe. As you listen, see if you can remember what's the surname of Billy Joe of the title, the young man who meets his death by jumping off the Tallahatchie Bridge.
It was the 3rd of June, another sleepy, dusty Delta day. I was out chopping cotton and my brother was baling hay. And at dinner time we stopped and walked back to the house to eat. And Mama hollered at the back door, y'all remember to wipe your feet.
Parker?
No. Yes, Chris Kilbride.
Was it McAllister?
It was McAllister, it was, yes. Billy Joe McAllister. I've been across a Tallahatchie Bridge, but it wasn't big enough to be the one in the song. There are apparently 7 of them in all. Chris Kilbride's question, a distinctive octagonal tower dating from the 14th century, known as the Lantern Tower, is a feature of which English cathedral?
Ely.
Yes, it is. What's the title of the 2011 novel by Stephen King that brings together 2 perennially popular themes in fantasy writing, time travel and the assassination of John F. Kennedy?
The Grassy Knoll.
No. Famous phrase. Lillian Crawford?
11/23/63.
I will give you that, because that's what I thought too. It's actually 11/22/63, but it is the date of the assassination in its American form. We will allow you that one. We've come to the end of another round, and these questions are going up and up. Claire Barrow, 5, David Gregson, 8, Lillian Crawford now 10, and Chris Kilbride, 11. So, it's tough at the top, and I say that because this is having to be the final round, folks. Last chance saloon time. Claire Barrow. According to a survey conducted in 1988, a third of all fiction borrowed from public libraries was said to have been written by which Jarrow-born author?
Catherine Cookson.
It was. The expression, as long as the Colosseum stands, Rome shall stand. When the Colosseum falls, Rome shall fall, is attributed to which key figure of early British Christianity?
Augustine.
No. David Gregson.
Columba?
No. Chris Kilbride.
Is it Bede?
It's Bede, St Bede, Bede of Jarrow, yes. And in case you were thinking we're confining this round entirely to famous people from Jarrow, the next question was not going to be about the athlete Steve Cram. We're going on to Lillian Crawford. Opening with the words, "And when day comes, we ask ourselves where we can find light in this never-ending shade." The poem, "The Hill We Climb," was written and performed at Joe Biden's inauguration in January 2021 by which 22-year-old American poet?
Rupi Kaur.
No. Anybody remember the name? Yes, Claire Barrow.
Was it Ella Henderson?
It wasn't. No, sounds plausible, not the name. Nobody remembers? It was Amanda Gorman. David Gregson, which charity, which still exists today, was first formed in September 1939 to assist the public with such pressing matters as evacuation and rationing?
Oxfam?
No. Lillian Crawford?
Christian Aid.
No. Chris Kilbride?
Was it Save the Children?
No. One more to go. Claire Barrow?
WASPA?
Nope. It was the Citizens Advice Bureau, as it used to be called. They dropped the word bureau in 2015, but it lingers on. Chris KILBRIDE, time for a sound clip for you. The following song was originally written for one of the composer's less successful shows. It was later incorporated in the Hollywood version of one of his biggest hits, and we'd like you to name the composer.
From this moment on, you for me, dear.
Only two for tea, dear.
From this moment on, from this happy day, no more blue songs.
Only hoop-de-doo songs.
From this moment on.
Stephen Sondheim?
Nope. Claire Barrow.
Cole Porter.
Cole Porter, from this moment on, written for a show called Out of This World, found its way into the big screen version of Kiss Me Kate. We heard Tommy Rowell in the role of Bill Calhoun. That brings us to the end of this first heat of Brain of Britain 2021, and the final scores are these. Claire Barrow, 7 points. David Gregson, 8. Lillian Crawford, 10. Chris KILBRIDE, 12. Well done. So we have our first semi-finalist, and it is Chris KILBRIDE, whom we'll meet again in the autumn. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the programme, the semi-finals will also include the highest scoring runners-up of the series, so all may not be lost for Lillian Crawford, because double figures leave you at least a chance of surviving in the competition. Whatever happens, well done all of you for that, and thank you for an excellent contest with which to begin the 2021 season. Next week, another 4 competitors will be starting their bids to become Brain of Britain 2021. Join us then, and thanks for listening today. Goodbye.